Hello and welcome everyone to episode 22 of Weekend Rental, the podcast where we discuss gaming and geek culture. As always, you can find us on iTunes and Google Play. Hey, and if you're feeling in the mood, why don't you leave us a review on iTunes? It really helps us out. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, reach out at weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. My name is Ryan, and as always, I'm joined by Andy.
Hey.
And Justin.
Hey, everyone.
All right, so we are going to dive right into Buy, Rent, Burn as usual. If you are not familiar with the podcast, Buy, Rent, Burn is a segment where we each individually pick 3 games for a given system. We'll play them all and then give our opinions on whether we would buy, rent, or burn each game. The system of choice this go-round is the Game Boy Advance. Andy has gone with CT Special Forces. Justin has selected MX 2002 featuring Ricky Carmichael, and I've gone with Digimon Racing. So let's go back up to the top and start off with Andy's pick, CT Forces. We'll hear a little bit about the game here. We'll go through the description. So the description for this game is part of the Counter-Terrorist Special Forces unit. You have all the necessary means for putting an end to the threat of terrorism. Your team comprises highly trained soldiers who can do anything from dress in camouflage to initiating surgical strikes on the enemy. In both ground missions and air combat, you'll plunge into 12 levels that span jungles, cities, mountains, and deserts. You can equip your team with various state-of-the-art weapons, including assault rifles and rocket launchers. Multiplayer mode lets you team up with a friend to complete missions. So, Andy, can you tell us a little bit more about this game after having some hands-on?
So yeah, this game is it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like a Contra-esque type game. You're going to the right, kind of go up, down, left, right, yeah. And you're shooting guns, switch out weapons.
ABBA start?
It doesn't quite have that, I don't think, but I guess I didn't check. But overall, I kind of enjoyed it. The graphics were actually pretty good for a Game Boy Advance game too. But maybe that's just because they weren't trying to do too much with it. It was more like 16-bit style graphics. So,
well, and I'd say like it reminded me, the Contra thing that's a good reference. Like that's a pretty close connection. But I felt like it was more of a ripoff on, not so much a ripoff, but maybe like in the vein of Metal Slug, especially Metal Slug Advance. I feel like this was very close to that game, which is a pretty decent game in its own right. But it's like sort of off base feeling for the Metal Slug series, where I feel like this game kind of gets away with it because it's not leaning on that, franchise. And yeah, it was really good. Like you said, I think the art style was pretty good, and it's kind of what you expect from this game, but it was much better than I expected from something that looked as generic as CT Special Forces. I mean, it just looked like some budget title, and I was like, wow, this is actually a really solid game.
Yeah, you gotta love the Metal Gear Solid reference too, right off the bat, where you're talking to your general.
I totally missed this.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Okay, so like when you start your first mission or whatever, you're talking to your general, and it's the same like codec conversations that you have in Metal Gear.
Okay, see, and I saw that, but like I was just pressing A to like skip through it to get to the game. So
sure,
that was my mistake.
Yeah, it was not like nothing like funny or anything like that. It was just mainly like you could tell like the screen was green, like all that stuff. Like they were trying to imitate that pretty hard, I think.
Well, it's kind of cool that it doesn't like really try to hide the games that it's lifting features from, but the fact that it lifts them and then creates something that's kind of unique in its own right is impressive for a game like this.
Yeah.
I will say the thing that really bothered me was, kind of looking back at like Contra or Metal Slug, is that it's one-shot kills to enemies. It got really frustrating when like every enemy, even the base ones, took like 3 hits. It seemed kind of needless because then you're just like waiting on the edge of the screen because they'll run back left and right,
Yeah.
So that got old after a while, but it didn't really take away my enjoyment of the game. It just slowed it down more than I felt like was necessary.
Yeah,
right.
That was the biggest thing that bothered me was the like patrolling back and forth with the enemies where they'd walk off the screen. So you'd have to scoot closer, and then they'd come back quite quick and walk right on you.
Yeah. Well, at least there was no like clip damage though. Like if they walked into you, it didn't hurt you.
Right,
It was only
yeah.
if they shot you. So like you can hug the guy next to you, but it's not going to do anything. But if he shoots you, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I didn't realize that I wouldn't take damage, so I was trying to avoid them for the longest time. And then finally, it ended up where they walked right through me, and I was like, oh, okay. Makes it much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a little thrown off too by the end of the stage where you just like get to the red flag and I'm like, oh cool, this must be the end. And I walk up to it and literally nothing happens. And you must have to like press like up A or something and then it registers. But
yep.
How bizarre is that? Like, I wonder how many people just like walked off that ledge thinking it was a checkpoint and then they lost all their progress.
I did the same thing. Like, I got up there and I stood there and I was like, all right, well, maybe it's timed. Like, I have to stand here for a second. No. So I just started pushing buttons and then finally advanced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the main guy you're looking for, you're like, oh, he must be a boss. And he's like, no, he just stands there and takes your bullets. Doesn't do anything.
Yeah. What the hell? You just like shoot him in the ass from below. It's crazy. Yeah. I don't know. I was kind of really impressed with what I thought was going to be a generic piece of trash.
Yeah. Apparently there's like 3 of these too.
Nice.
On the Game Boy.
I might have to check them out. All right, should we move on to Justin's pick? Justin has gone with, as we mentioned before, MX 2002 featuring Ricky Carmichael. I'm not sure how important the Ricky Carmichael piece is to all of this, but the description, the biggest extreme sport just got bigger. Prepare for new levels of immersion, authenticity, and compelling gameplay with MX 2002 featuring Ricky Carmichael. For the Microsoft Xbox, I think this is wrong. This is the description for the Game Boy Advance one on. So just substitute Microsoft Xbox with Game Boy Advance because this is not right. Ride like a champion, compete for rockstar status in freestyle mode, or just cruise the open terrain for your moto kicks, featuring jaw-dropping graphics, awe-inspiring speed, and a perfect blend of traditional racing and free ride madness. Yeah, that was very much not the right description that's on GameFAQs, but more or less accurate, I guess. Can you tell us some more about the game, Justin?
Well, it's about what I expected for a Game Boy Advance game. Like, I'm not really a huge fan of handheld games. I never really got into them. So when I seen this, I was like, well, we'll try it. I enjoyed a couple of the other Dirtbag games later on, I suppose. Maybe later on, I don't know. There was a couple Dirtbag games that I did enjoy, so I was like, I'll pick this. It's really hard to tell the turns, and the whole track was just kind of tough to drive around because you can't judge anything by depth. And then just the crashing as soon as you hit the edge was kind of frustrating. Also, I don't know if there was much sound because my sound was broken for it, so I was hoping that it would have good soundtrack at least.
I can tell you didn't miss much, if that makes you feel better. Not bad, just completely forgettable.
Yeah, that's about what I expected after playing it, that it would probably have been not very good sound either. So overall, I wasn't really impressed with it. I was kind of hoping, that it would be a decent handheld playable game, but I don't feel like it was extremely playable.
Yeah, I mean, basically, this is one of those games on the Game Boy Advance where they tried to kind of replicate what the FX chip did on the Super Nintendo. The Game Boy Advance is a little more horsepower in the pseudo 3D arena, and not many of the games that went that direction pulled it off well, and I feel like that's kind of the case here. They focused, kind of the full focus on this game, you can tell, is trying to create like a pseudo 3D environment, and like you said, the tracks are ridiculously narrow. You can't, because of the verticality of the levels, which it's even tough to distinguish that it's vertical or not. You just come over like a line and all of a sudden you're flying down over a corner that you're going to crash because, like you said, as soon as you run off the road, you crash, and the courses are extremely narrow. Then the other problem is like the bike and character sprites are massive. And if you clip the edge or you clip another rider, you flip over, or sometimes the other computer riders clip into each other and then fall over. And then they just like yard sail right in front of you. So basically like everyone on the track just flips over each other and there's like a big pile of bikes that you can't avoid, which is incredibly frustrating. I will say like it's playable, but it's, totally forgettable. And the thing I think that bothered me the most, was one, I've seen FX games done better on older hardware like the Super Nintendo. But the big thing that killed it for me was you complete that first lap and you realize like, oh shit, it's been 2 minutes and I just did one lap. This is a portable handheld game. Like 2 minutes should be your entire race. Like 6 minutes around that course is just excruciating. And by the time like you finish a few races, there's very little desire to pick that up and go back, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty rough because like it's kind of in the style of a lot of those really old games too, Outrun, Pole Position, all those too, and I feel like those are more pleasing to look at than than this thing is. I feel like the slopes and everything, it's like I was driving around on a Marble Madness track or something. I don't know. But I mean, I guess I don't blame them. It's a little tough to do this, but a lot of them they should have done like a top down view, I feel like, instead. Because like from this point of view, the thing that makes like dirt bike games like challenging, even all the way back to Excite Bike, is the timing of hitting the downside of a ramp, right? And
right,
like you can't do that in this game. Like you see the front of the ramp, you can't see how far away the downside is or anything. You can't do that. So there's like no real skill in that part of this game, I don't think.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. It's more just like a process of trying to stay in the middle of the track and anticipate what's over the next jump, at least the first time through. Yeah, I don't know that like changing the pitch, like, I noticed you could change the pitch on the bike in the air, but I don't think it does anything. Like it,
right.
I mean, it moves slightly, but like it, yeah, like you said, like the whole skill factor to that in most good dirt bike games is gone.
Yep. Plus, maybe I was missing something, but I took major issue that this was featuring Ricky Carmichael, and I could not find him on the list to pick from.
He's the one I started with. It was literally the one.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I missed it then. I must have missed it.
Yeah, I don't know about the pitch thing because you can't see what's coming, so you can't adjust anyways, even if there was something to adjust for.
Right.
Like, that's a pointless addition to me. I feel if they would have made the angle behind the bike a little bit steeper instead of looking like straight at it, if they would have lifted it up, so you had like a little bit overhead view, or like you were saying, straight above, it would have been a little bit better. But,
yep.
Or even like a Tony Hawk Pro Skater conversion, like how they did the pseudo 3D, like just on an isometric angle. The game would have ran a whole lot better, and there'd have been a lot more real estate to see your bikes on the screen,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely like they went more for like the wow factor of how this looked. Like if you looked at a still screen of this, you could be forgiven for thinking that this was a game that was going to run in 3D on the Game Boy Advance. And then you play it and you're like, in reality, this is running at like 10 frames a second. Looks like vomit. And that's too bad because they probably could have made a decent game had they not tried to do too much graphically.
Yeah, but what are you going to do? Ricky Carmichael was really hot in 2002. You had to put him on everything. So
I got a tattoo of Ricky Carmichael on my mid back. So
really, the Fox Racing logo with it, or
Yep. Pretty proud of that. No regrets. All right, so let's move on to the last one. Digimon Racing, my pick. So the description for this one: if you thought Digimon didn't drive cars, you're wrong. Well, technically they're not cars, they're carts. In Digimon Racing, the Digimon crew just got their first set of wheels and they're ready to tear it up with more than 15 tracks. As your favorite Digimon character from the animated TV series, you'll drive a cart through lava fields, jungles, and cities in a variety of game modes, including single race, cup race, boss challenges, and time trial. link the Game Boy Advance systems together with the Game Boy link cable for head-to-head action up to 4 players. Basically, if you're unfamiliar, Digimon was sort of a, I guess, Pokemon ripoff. Back in the day, it was an animated series, and this game is a ripoff of Mario Kart. It's basically just Mario Kart with Digimon characters. Now, the whole premise with Digimon, the series, and in this game is that they're digital monsters that can evolve. So they do use that to some effect. There are patches on the course that make your character digivolve. If you get hit, you shrink back down, so you de-evolve. And that will affect your speed, your handling, like the weight of the cart. And it will also give you character-specific attacks, just like you see in Mario Kart. I will say I was a huge fan of Digimon that first couple of years. The first run up to the movie, I really liked, even though I was way too old for it. I think I was probably a senior in high school, junior at the earliest. And I'm a big fan of Mario Kart, as are a lot of people. But this game just feels kind of off in a way that lets you know that this is just kind of a cash-in on both the franchise and the Mario Kart game itself. I will say the biggest problem I had with this game is the knockback, the hit detection. If you hit something, your character flies back really fast and very far. So if you find a spot where you clip a on-road obstacle or the side of the road, it can really screw your game up quickly. And then other than that, I just found it kind of to be a mediocre imitation of a much better game. I don't know what you guys thought of this one.
Yeah, I guess I never really got into the whole Digimon stuff, but as far as the game, I felt like it was, like you said, fairly similar to Mario Kart. I, again, struggled with the judgment on the curves. I felt like it slid so far compared to what Mario Kart would have. And just the play was not nearly what I was hoping it to be. I didn't really understand the whole patches and stuff, but yeah, I ran over a grid thing, and the guy that I was using, he was 3 times the size that he should have been.
Digivolve.
I don't know what that did.
It digivolved. You didn't hear it when they yelled it every time? Digivolve.
No, my sound was broken for.
Oh, see, you missed out on this one.
Game Boy Advance.
It was good.
For some reason, the 3 games here didn't have sound. Everything else did.
And it's funny you mentioned the controls, the sliding feeling off from Mario Kart. And I think that's what really screws somebody up, because if you're familiar with those games, it instantly doesn't feel right. I think maybe if you didn't have previous experience, it might feel more normal. But the digivolving and then going around the corners, those first couple times when you don't quite realize that digivolving changes how your cart handles drastically, really screws your game up. And it kind of throws off the consistency in the gameplay. It's a cool feature, but it almost screws you over more than it helps you.
Yeah.
Right, because it's like you're driving as Toad, Yoshi, and Bowser all at the same time, depending on what stage you're at.
Yeah.
That's how it feels anyway. But I totally wrote this game off when it came out. I was big time into Pokemon at that point, and about this point, Pokemon was getting really deep into the sequels. They're we're really going to get into the strategy and make a really really deep systems in this game. And Digimon are I don't know, put them in some cars, So and I thought that was wrong, but the box says I was, that apparently they belong in cars. So I'm sorry. But I was just kind of surprised how much it actually got close to Super Circuit on the Game Boy Advance for Mario Kart. And then you throw in that patch stuff that's more reminiscent of an F-Zero, I guess.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of a mix of F-Zero and Mario Kart, but yeah, the controls are not quite up to snuff compared to Mario Kart, but like you said, does that make it a bad controls or just that it's different, you know?
Right, and I think that's the thing is like I think if you're used to what it should feel like based on Mario Kart, because it looks and feels like it sounds like Mario Kart, but the handling is off, you know.
Yeah.
And then you get a little bit of like almost Twisted Metal in there too with those boss battles. So at the end of each circuit, you fight a boss to complete that and move on to the next race, which kind of just consists of a Mario Kart-esque battle arena where you just have to pick up power-ups and shoot them at the boss, 3 hits, and they're done. All the while you're trying not to take damage and de-evolve. And I don't know that really added anything. So, you know.
So I played that course. It's called like Toyland or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a field, and and the walls to it are blocks that look like Lego blocks almost, all different colors. So like it's a straight ripoff of like Super Nintendo Mario Kart.
Yep, pretty much.
It's like, wow, you guys got some balls on there. Like just make them a solid color wall instead of like different colors.
Yeah. It wasn't too subtle about, again, where that it got its influences. It's kind of funny because like this and CT Special Forces, like you can definitely tell they're games that leaned heavily on properties that already existed.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, let's go back up now through the list. Start off with Andy and do our picks for buy, rent, burn. Andy, what are your selections this time around?
For my buy, I'm going to pick Digimon Racing because that really surprised me how well they pulled that off compared to a lot of other racing games that might be mentioned further down this list. But it yeah, I mean it's not as good as Super Mario Kart and all that, but it's a good approximation, I felt, and I guess the evolving stuff is kind of annoying, but at the same time it's an interesting idea to bring into a racing game like that. So at least it's fun to play for 10 minutes or whatever, when you have time. But my rent is going to be CT Special Forces because that's a pretty solid action game overall on the Game Boy. I kind of got frustrated with the maze a little bit, but I think that's more that, hey, you get to explore a little bit, but you do all this work and then there's just some ammo for a weapon up there or something, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but that's not really why you're playing that game and then having to shoot those guys like 5 times to kill each one. So that got annoying. But overall, not too bad. And my burn is going to be Ricky Carmichael. He's got to go down in flames here. I didn't like that game one bit. Like I've played decent games like that before, but like that was just bad. Like the turning and stuff just did not feel good in it either. So like if that's your whole crux of like the skill of it is just the turning, you got to make that good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Justin, how about your picks?
Well, I'm going to go a little bit different here. My buy is actually going to be CT Special Forces. I thought that game played pretty well. It's not typically the type of game that I would really enjoy, but it was actually a pretty fun game for what a handheld would be, I guess. My rent is going to be Digimon Racing. I feel like it had its moments where it was fun, and for the most part, it did play pretty good. That the turning was a little bit loose, and I guess now that you mentioned that, when you evolved, it did change. So it's kind of a neat feature. I didn't really realize it until now, but that would be my rent. My burn is gonna be Ricky Carmichael, just because That game was not fun.
I like how it starts
I
out
had-
with MX 2002, but we're deciding to pit the blame on Ricky Carmichael specifically. This is great.
He put his name on it. It's
Yeah.
stamped to him.
It's you named it, guy. It's not good. Like the biggest issue for me was the camera angle and the turning. If that would have been any different, this could have had potential. But
Yeah. Well, I gotta say there wasn't like a standout game in any of these, but I'd agree with Justin. I really liked CT Special Forces, and I was actually impressed with what I thought was going to be like a crap budget title. That was a really solid game, and you make a good point, Andy, in talking about like the maze. It was a little frustrating, like trying to navigate because it isn't so clear how to navigate the level until you've stumbled around a little bit. But I kind of like the verticality of the levels, changes it up a little bit. I would sink some more time into that one. So it'll be my buy. My rent, I really love Digimon, like the original property. And obviously I like Mario Kart. I think that this is a decent, tie-in license game that tries to be Mario Kart. It's not quite right, but it's good enough to pick up and rent. And, I just like that my character yells, Digivolve, every time I run over a patch and get larger. It's great. And then I also will torch Ricky Carmichael and his POS MX 2002 game. That is a visual and control broken like nightmare. That is just, it does nothing right at all. It's just like the epitome of mediocre trash, and it's playable. I mean, I would never say that you couldn't sit down and play that game and get through it, but would you enjoy it? And I think, at the end of the day, I don't think anyone can say, yes, I like this game. I mean, that's a big thing.
No. It's like the epitome of the age of where somebody made had a license to a game, and then they're like, they just made decisions on what systems to put it on by like how many people had that system,
Right.
yeah,
Well, and like this was the beginning, and like that was right in the time frame that was like the beginning of the wave of like the onslaught of like dirt bike and ATV racing games. Like it was just a sea of like forgettable trash.
Yeah.
And it's all Ricky Carmichael's fault. It started here, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why Travis Pastrana is still around today. He didn't put his name on shitty
Now
games.
he just backflips, tricycles off of jumps for fun. Great career choice. And we laugh, but he's a millionaire, so
Yeah.
I guess he had it right. Well, another Byron Burn in the books. It was a pretty memorable one. It was kind of fun to play some games I'd never really given a chance before, and turned out to be, for the most part, pretty good. All right, so let's get right on into the core of the podcast here. Talk about what's going on in the world, gaming, pop culture, what we're playing. I'm going to start off this episode, just talk a little bit about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 for the Super Nintendo, Turtles in Time. I had picked that up at MGC, finally got around to playing it in the last week or so. And man, what a great beat 'em up that is. I mean, that is the pinnacle of like couch co-op beat 'em ups. I mean, I had my kids sitting down here. We were trading off controllers, and yeah, everything about that game is just fantastic.
Yeah, as soon as that first time you throw somebody at the screen, like that's just amazing. Like that's where it jumps off in that game.
Yeah, and then I went into the settings and like changed the, because you can change the art style for the turtles, like television show or comic. And if you go comic, then like the certain characters are like a little bit darker green, so it's kind of easier to pick them apart on TV, on the TV screen.
But then
Really liked that. I'd never done that before, but like it makes it a lot easier with little kids like mine who, kind of lose their character, being they're both somewhat similar.
sure, but then aren't they? If they're comic, aren't they all the red bandanas then too?
See, and that's what I thought it would be, but no, they're not. They keep them, so it's weird.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Because I was like, well, this is going to switch, and they're all going to be red, but they weren't. And then I got busted too because I don't usually I don't play games down here with my kids like when I come down to play games at night because everybody goes to bed. But I had put that game in and I started playing like the first level and I was like, this is fun, but man, this is way better with like another person. So like my daughter, we let our kids watch one show before they go to bed on like their Roku's or whatever, and we set the TV timer 30 minutes, it shuts off, they fall asleep. And I went in there and asked my daughter, I was like, hey, do you just want to come out here and play a game with me instead of watching your show tonight? She's like, sure. So I had her out on the couch and we're playing. And then my son, like I always say goodnight because my daughter's bedroom's in the basement here with my game room. My son's on the main floor with us. And I always say goodnight before we go down. And for whatever reason, that night he decided to come downstairs and tell me goodnight again. And completely busted me and his sister playing video games on the couch when he was supposed to be going to bed. And he was just like on the verge of tears. And like, I felt so bad. I'm like, of course. And I had to explain to him, like, son, this isn't normal. I don't usually sit down here and play video games with your sister while you're in bed. So then we all played for a while and my wife scolded me, but it worked out. So
That's pretty good, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, fantastic game. I wish I had picked it up a long time ago because I loved it as a kid, and it's great to have it in the collection now.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't really been playing much outside of the same stuff as like Far Cry. I did end up getting Labo just because all you people are bad influences.
Hey, you said I set a good example and that you learned that it wasn't for you. What happened to that, Andy?
Exactly, that's the problem. But then you said it was fun, so somewhat.
Yeah, fun and extremely tedious.
Yes. Wait till you build that piano. I think there's like 13 or more keys that you need to build on that thing, and that is tedious.
Yeah, I can honestly say we have not built anything since the last time we talked about it. So you're already further into the kits than I am, which more power to you because like I'm afraid to do that stuff.
Yeah, I figured to get the big one out first, right? That's I think that's the longest one it said, so.
Oh, really? The piano is?
Yeah.
It's probably the coolest one though too, just like functionality wise.
Yeah, like as you're building it, it's like seeing how it works is like really cool, really awesome. But it's it's just a shitty piano, you know, like.
How did your kids take to it? I know you were worried about, the ages and stuff, kind of like mine.
Yeah, my oldest one stuck in there the whole time on both projects, so.
Wow.
Yeah, he had a lot of fun with it. He wasn't able to bend and fold the cardboard as like accurate as you need to. So
sure,
I did most of that, but he was engaged with it. So I think he learned how some of it works too, and that's important, So
well, that's really cool, and I think that's at the end of the day, like that is the point of Labo, right? Like I think that's what Nintendo was going for. So that's cool.
Yeah, well, and as being a programmer in my daily life, I want to go into that area where you can like develop things yourself. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
They like make a guitar by putting like rubber bands around your switch, and then you just program the areas that you're strumming to make different sounds. It's like, that's crazy. So you can program pretty much anything with like different sounds at different areas and touching and a whole bunch of stuff.
That is pretty cool. I've kind of wanted to look into that too, but like where you're thinking of like making guitars and stuff, I've just been thinking of like, how can I make a really awesome drinking game out of Labo? Like that's been that's where my head's been at. I was like, I want to make a drinking game, but it's Labo based.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I like that idea.
It's really not that good. It's really stupid, but that's where I go. So
you have to build everything out of beer boxes though, right?
yeah, or red Solo cups, and then you got to get the stickers, the sensor stickers. I'm not sure how this is going to work yet. I'll figure it out. It's a work in progress.
The Labo Drinking Olympics. I love this.
I'm sure this is what Nintendo had envisioned it being used for. But they're in luck because I'll never pull it off or find the ambition to do this. So it's fine.
I think even if you did, you'd be like the only person that'd be like, look what I did. And they're like, wow, that was a gigantic waste of time.
It's like the saddest drinking game in the world because it's just one guy drinking alone in a basement. It's like you created alcoholism. That is not a game, sir. Yeah, well, it's
careful.
Cool
You go down that
up.
road, you'll be building a cardboard house for yourself.
It's preparation for the future. Well, I'm glad you picked it up and you guys had some fun with it.
Yeah.
Now I need to get on it and build the rest of those pieces with my kids here.
Yeah, it's totally worth it, especially that one. I don't know about the robot one, but like the games aren't that deep, but overall, like just building the stuff, the amount of hours that you get out of it, it's totally worth it.
Oh yeah,
it's better than a Lego set for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good time to cost ratio on that for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of Switch, they just announced their online service, which
again.
Yeah, they kind of went deeper into like how much it costs, like what you get out of it, and doesn't seem like a lot of people are very positive about it.
Can you give us the rundown here? Because I did not realize they'd given updates.
Sure. So the pricing for it is basically $20 a year, which is better than the others, competitors.
Right.
Then they have like a family membership for $35 a year, which you can split up to 7 other people. So like,
hey, Andy, we're family now.
Yeah, exactly. Like people know that's how that works. It's not like, are they that stupid or they're just like, yeah, whatever. I don't know. They have to know that, right?
No, I mean, I think Nintendo just learned what the internet was like 2013, so they're probably just that ignorant to it.
Yeah, nobody's going to try and scam us for sure. One of the big things is that came out was that, hey, you're going to have cloud backup data for your saves.
Oh, finally. Okay.
Yeah. So that's...
What's the caveat to this, though? You're making it seem like there's a but.
No, not really. It's just that's in the paid service. You don't get that for free.
So now if I back up all my saves and my Switch takes a shit, can I re-download that to a new system? Did they specify that?
I would think so. I don't know if that's on this service or if that's just to your Nintendo account. I don't know.
Okay.
And then they're doing 20 free NES games to play. And it says it has online multiplayer, whatever that means. So I don't know if that's like, hey, it's your turn to play, so it's like passing controller digitally or something. I don't know.
So they just give you like from the outset 20 that everyone gets, or you get to pick and choose as they roll it out, did they say?
You get 20 from the outset, and they would be adding more, I believe. They only announced 10. You get soccer, tennis, Donkey Kong, Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers, Balloon Fight, Ice Climber, Dr. Mario, Legend of Zelda, and Mario 3.
Cool, I got 3 good games in there. I'm excited for that. Oh, and I already own all of them multiple times over.
Yeah, exactly.
Consoles, but that's... Yeah. Why does their insistence with fucking Balloon Fight? Why do they keep hanging on to that like that's a prized possession?
I know. That's got to
That
be
is
in a
not a
lot of
good
thing or
game.
something. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't get that one either.
So no virtual console, no voice chat. And I realize they already have voice chat, but they're not going to do like a proper through this service voice chat party system.
I have not heard that. No.
Because that to me is like the thing that's okay. So you've got games like Doom and Wolfenstein and all this coming to the Switch, and they're being ported and they play better than they have any right to. But if I can't hook up in a proper online voice chat, like multiplayer party system, like they're never going to capture that core. I mean, that's a core section of gaming. That's like not a niche thing. That's like half of gamers today expect that in a lot of what they do. Like that's a big hurdle.
Yeah.
Because I can completely overlook, like with Doom, I can overlook the fact that it isn't the prettiest version of Doom. But if you're completely foobarring the multiplayer portion of that because you won't give me the thing that I've come to be accustomed to for the last 15 years or more, I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah. I think they're still in the camp of like, hey, a lot of the hostility on Xbox Live and all that come from voice chat. So they just want to, like, I don't think they want to delve into that to be like
but the thing
family
is
friendly,
like,
but
yeah, but that's just, you kind of tied right into what I was going to say. It was like family friendly, but you know what the worst shit is on Xbox Live? Fucking 8-year-old kids with a headset.
yeah.
Like they are the biggest filth on most of those services, like 8 to 13-year-olds. Like it's ridiculous. I mean, I understand you want to cut down on that, but I don't know. Nintendo has the ability to make like the Switch. I mean, the Switch is already a huge success, but like having that infrastructure, I mean, they really could leverage that into something where the follow-up to the Switch could be in the same vein and could be like the premier game system.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't have to be premier in the sense that it's like visually the most stunning, but it could have like the most robust, like all around, you know, portability, playability, voice chat. I mean, it's a bummer to hear that they're going to launch this quote unquote online service and like the thing that you expect from the online service is not there, you know?
Well, right. And then, you know, like the big thing they say is, hey, you can play online. You can play Splatoon online, Mario Kart. Well, you can do that now, you know, like you could have done that for forever on Nintendo consoles. So like that isn't a bullet point. That's something you should be hiding, I think, because it's like that. I don't know. Like that's you're just trying to get money out of people because that's what the others are doing. So why not? Right.
Right. I mean, shit, at this point, partner with like Discord, like put a Discord app on your thing that enables voice chat if you pay for this subscription also.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
It's frustrating because I don't know what I'm paying for here because to me, if I'm the proposition of online to me is the voice and party chat and friend system. So if that's not there, I don't really understand the value.
Yeah, that's very true. If they, you know, add a lot more games to it, other than these, you know, really basic NES games, I might be all for it. It sounds like it's kind of like a Netflix style. Some might enter, some might leave, that type of thing. So that makes it sound like it could be like third parties involved.
Yeah, maybe. So when this launches, then, like to your point, does Splatoon and Mario Kart, and is that not free to play online anymore?
Right.
Like you cannot do it without this service?
Right.
Yeah. Or I could go back to my Wii U and play Mario Kart 8 online and Splatoon online for free, right?
Well, until they shut that online down on Wii U, which has to be pretty soon, I bet.
Yeah, you would think. So speaking of that, this kind of ties into a topic I wanted to bring up. The Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze release on the Switch. There's been some controversy. I think to me, as a Wii U owner, I find it kind of offensive that this straight up simple port, I mean, granted, I know Funky Kong is in there, is releasing on the Switch as $60 when this game retailed brand new at a price point of $50 on the Wii U. So $50 was the most it ever cost. It was then a greatest hits game or a selects game that was $20. It can still be bought at that. I'm sure you can find a store that's selling a shrink wrapped copy of that for the Wii U for $20. So I don't know what to think about that. I think that's kind of, well, one, it keeps me as someone who, like, I love that game. That's a great game, but it keeps me as someone who owns both consoles and a Wii U version of the game. Like, I wouldn't consider rebuying that for the Switch, right? And arguably, I guess I'm probably not the target audience for that in that case, but it's kind of disgusting that they're just doing a quick port and like charging more for it. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, and then like getting rid of the digital version on the Wii U.
Yeah, that's right. They delisted it. Yep.
Yeah, to scrub it, that controversy, from their public view at least. But yeah, that's a lot to ask. I mean, if you want to charge a $10 premium on top of it, go for it. I think that's the premium that you pay for having it portable. But yeah, charging $10 above it ever was, that's ridiculous. Right. So, and $40 more than what it is now.
But I mean, that's the other thing too, though, is like, obviously they want to recoup the money they put into these games that just simply couldn't sell to their potential on the Wii U because the audience wasn't there. But couldn't they have just added something and charged $40 and put it on the Switch? Because you're making a little bit less on each copy, but you're going to sell a shit ton more. Because at $40, I'll be honest, I probably would have bought that.
Right. And it's just an added, it's already a sunk cost, right? Like they already made it. It's not like they have to recoup anything at this point. They did all the bet on the Wii or on the Wii U and it didn't work. So like, if you can sell a few more copies at any price, it's a benefit, I would think, as long as it's a profit. But
yeah, I mean, it just kind of like, it's kind of that continuing trend of like, if it comes to the Switch, it will cost $10 more. It's even happening with first party ports, which is crazy. Yeah, and then the review side of this thing too. I mean, I can understand a little bit with Funky Kong adding 2 hearts to, making this game a little bit easier for this ridiculously hard game. Right.
That changes your aspect on how this game plays a little bit, but overall, like, the disparity between like what it's getting on the Switch compared to what it got on the Wii U is ridiculous.
Yeah, and so like what you're kind of referring to, like the big one that led the outcry was GameStop, right?
GameSpot had it, yep.
GameSpot, yeah. So Wii U, this game got a 6 out of 10, and then on the Switch it got a 9 out of 10. And like Andy stated, Funky Kong is essentially like an easy mode to that, but it doesn't change the core gameplay at all. It just gives you like a handheld version, not handheld, but an easier mode, which doesn't quite add up to like a kind of drastic difference in review scores for what is essentially the same game.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, like, there was a gigantic amount of backlash to that game getting developed in the first place.
Really?
Because it was made by Retro Studios. And everybody was just clamoring for Metroid Prime 4, at that point.
Sure.
And then when they announced, we're doing Donkey Kong Country again, everybody just got in a hissy fit about it. And it turned out it's probably the best Donkey Kong game ever made, really.
I was just going to say, I think it is like legitimately the best polished version of that series. Yep. It is hard as hell.
Oh yeah.
But as somebody who owned the Wii U and like you were used to like all the hand-holdy shit that came out on like the Wii and the Wii U, it was kind of refreshing as like a, experienced gamer to get something that like legitimately challenged me and like made me put down my system and walk away and come back later and try. I liked it.
Yeah, and playing as like Donkey Kong himself, like that, you felt the weight of him and like the physics of how big he is, you know, in that game, and it makes it extremely hard, but it makes it interesting as a platformer. Whereas Mario is a flat Italian plumber, but you wouldn't feel it by the way he runs and jumps, you know.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point. So I kind of in keeping like we'll just stay on the Nintendo train here. They kind of recently reaffirmed that you know you got to take it for what it's worth. I mean, they're just stating this for the time being. Things could change in the near future, but they kind of doubled down on no, we are going to continue to support the 3DS throughout at least this fiscal year, and I find that kind of surprising. Given the success of the Switch and the age of the 3DS, as to why they're continuing to do that. And they pointed to the fact that there are a lot of, you know, low budget games. There's a big install base for the 3DS. The price point makes it something that parents would buy multiple systems for kids in a household, whereas the Switch is still expensive and it's not at that point. But I think everyone's just kind of like, why is Nintendo putting resources, at least in my mind, game development wise, into the 3DS, and why aren't they focusing 100% on the Switch? I think is the big question, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, nobody's gonna buy a new 3DS. I don't think. I mean,
right?
You're gonna buy. If you do, it's because you had one before, and you're updating or something like that. But I can't imagine unless they get like to a whole new price point where it's like reaching a whole new customer. I just can't imagine that they don't already have it if they're going to.
Well, on those 2DSs, like, man, when they go on sale, you're getting like $60 and you're getting 2 games packed in with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know how much cheaper they could make that. And, you know, you've kind of seen Nintendo take this stance in the past. Like, I distinctly remember like the Game Boy Advance and the 2DS rollout. And they were saying, you know, no, they're completely different and distinct, you know, channels that we're going to run things through. But it's kind of interesting because at that point, Nintendo had a home console. They had the Game Boy Advance, which was wildly successful, but aging. And then they had a new handheld, right? So if you eliminate one of those, you've still got a home console plus a handheld, where I think where they might be a little hesitant in this generation is if you cut 3DS, you are a one console company, right? Like your entire stream is based on one device. So I wonder if that is part of the decision in lingering on with the 3DS.
When does the 3DS Micro come out?
You think he'll do a micro? It'll be on store shelves for like a week and then be instantly collectible. I think like a more likely scenario is they're going to I think they're going to run the Switch through another set of hardware redesigns and revisions where it will be more cost effective, and I think we will see
less piracy
handheld. yeah, right. Yeah. I think we'll see a handheld only version of the Switch, to be honest. That will just play all Switch games, and like maybe you can't do some of the stuff you could like docking wise, but the price point will replace where the 3DS is at, and then you'll also have like the home version of the Switch. And maybe what they'll do is like being they're already having problems with their NVIDIA chipset, maybe they're going to be like a beefier version, so we'll get the Switch XL Plus, right? And then you're going to get the Switch Mini. And they're going to be different markets, but then they'll all use the same games, you know? And there might not be 100% compatibility, but, you know, if you can get to 90%, I mean, that's pretty solid, or patch things in.
Yeah, I would say that would be tough, but they've done that in the past. I mean, that new 3D, there's new 3DS games that require that, so it's like they're not afraid to do that.
Although they only have like, 4 games that were
Yeah.
like reliant on that stick. Yeah, and maybe who knows? Maybe they'll do something where it's like, man, if they could come out with a revised version of the Switch that was like handheld and small, that didn't have all like the Joy-Con stuff, plus it would run 3DS games natively, like that would be amazing. Or like emulate them. That will not happen. I just think like the internal architecture is way too different between those two. But
Yeah.
who knows? Or how amazing would it be if we get like a 3DS player that like bolted onto your Switch dock?
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess overall, like that's just one of those things. Like I'm a little disappointed to hear Nintendo continuing on with it because the 3DS, like as a handheld, has had like an incredibly long life cycle already. I mean, you play games on that after playing games on the Switch, and it's tough. Like,
Yeah.
it is hard to like get into those games.
Hey, what are the games that are coming for it? Are they actually doing like top ones, or is it just like parading Mario Party out again or something?
See, I feel like they announced a couple more like heavy hitters, but that's the thing is like past this year, I don't think they've said much. So
Sure. I
maybe
suppose
they'll
Luigi's
quietly let it
Mansion. Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And that one pisses me off because I would buy that if it was on the Switch, but you know what? I'm not going to bust out my 3DS to play that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the right fit for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Justin, we've buried you in Nintendo talk. Why don't you dig yourself out and tell us something that's not Nintendo related?
I do feel like they're going to make a cardboard container, though, for the 3DS to connect
Think
to
so?
the Switch. Yep.
It's the Labo connection cable. It only takes 3 hours to build.
Yeah, I guess basically, for me, I'm kind of excited. Sony had announced that they're going to allow name changes, sounds like, in the next update here. Or update coming in the future. So that's kind of exciting. Be able to change my name to something that I actually want.
Or something that's not your actual name. That's real nice.
Yeah. I feel like they're, I don't know, 15 years behind.
Yeah, well, to be fair, they didn't really get online party chat systems like even working until PS4, so they're
Right.
getting there.
But, yeah, so that's one thing that I'm super excited for. I also have, correction, I think podcast last one or the one before that had said that State of Decay 2 was coming out last week. It's actually the 22nd of this month. So I'm still super excited for that. Also, H1Z1 is coming to PlayStation. I believe it's right around the 22nd as well. And that's...
Is there a price point on that? Do you know?
Yeah, well, right now, if you have PlayStation Plus, you can get it for $23, I think it is.
Okay.
I don't know if it's supposed to be free.
I was going to say, wow.
H1Z1's free on computer right
Yeah.
now. But it's like a pre-order bundle, so you get a whole bunch of exclusive stuff. So I'm guessing, once it hits release day, it'll probably drop to free. I don't know. It seems kind of silly that they're going to charge when it's free on PC now. But they could just as well have it free and have in-game purchases, transactions like every other game does.
I feel like, I mean, it's cool that H1Z1's coming, but I almost feel like they're going to be too buried under the other stuff right now for that to really take hold. But maybe I'm wrong.
I agree. Well, it's been in the talks for 5 years now that H1Z1 or DayZ was coming to PlayStation when PS4 came out. And now it's the first time I actually heard of it coming for sure. And that was when they announced the release date. Like, there wasn't any talk before that. It's just all of a sudden it's there on the store for pre-order. It just seems kind of strange. Maybe
Yeah,
they're
it's
just
crazy.
pushing it out because they're done with it and they don't care anymore.
Huh.
I don't know. I hope that it plays well. I'll probably end up getting it unless I have to pay $30 for it. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean that'd be a game I'd be interested in picking up. To be honest, well, you know.
Yeah, it's one of the original Battle Royale, I guess, or that style type. But guess we'll see. Also, I've been playing a lot of Fortnite.
No, you don't say.
That and Smite, but Fortnite, they have a limited time mode going on right now that it's kind of falling in line with the Avengers movie, I suppose. Limited time mode where you can actually become Thanos. So you get all of his abilities. You get the laser, the jumping. I don't really know a whole lot about Thanos, other than he's in the newest Avengers movie. But it's kind of interesting. It's only solo mode, so it's everybody against everybody, no teams. And one person can be him. When that person dies, the glove drops to wherever you are, and whoever gets there first gets it.
It's pretty sweet though, like to see them do like a tie-in of that caliber.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be a huge license to get tied into a game that's honestly though, it's probably like mutually beneficial to both those properties at this point, given like how big Fortnite is in gaming. It's like kind of the equivalent to like the Marvel stuff in cinema.
Yeah. I assume it's going to be a big, combo between anything and everything that Fortnite will promote.
Well, yeah.
Everybody's going to be coming after Fortnite to promote their stuff.
Well, and it's kind of like a marketing dream too, because it's like they don't have to take themselves seriously at all, like Fortnite doesn't, and they have like zero lore to it, so it's not like they have to stay in some world that they be like, oh, Thanos doesn't fit our story, so he can't be in there, like
right. As long as they don't roll out a Doritos Crash Course Fortnite game mode, I think we're okay.
I haven't played it yet, but I probably will later here after we're done here. I'll probably jump on and play it a couple times.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Can you snap your fingers as him in that game?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I assume that's something significant.
Yeah, that's in the movie. So
okay.
I was gonna, speaking of kind of like your corrections or whatever, but this isn't so much correction as an update, but we talked about that Neo Geo teased console. So I don't know that it's 100% confirmed, but it looks like some online stores leaked images, and it is going to be like a little mini tabletop arcade cabinet with like a 3x4 inch screen. It will have a port in the side to hook in a second controller, which kind of looks like, it sort of looks like the Neo Geo CD controllers, like the smaller, like jelly bean shaped ones. And then it will also feature HDMI out, so you can put it onto a television screen.
Oh, okay.
So
awesome.
Our kind of initial predictions seem to be in line with what they're coming out with. I don't think they've announced a price point yet. I think the rumor is there's 40 games, which I believe to be the same 40 games that are coming out on the Switch collection. I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked into it, but still very cool. And something that I'm eager to get my hands on, I guess.
It's kind of weird that it doesn't look like an MVS, though.
It is, right? Yeah, it's just very, like, white. It's almost like the... it reminds me a lot of the candy cabs from Japan. Like, almost that style.
Yeah.
Maybe that's kind of what they were going for.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it would have been cool to see, like, a couple of variants, like I would have loved to have seen like the red and white along the side.
Absolutely.
But I guess we'll find out more once it's like officially confirmed.
Yeah.
And luckily, it comes with like 18 King of Fighters games, so that's good.
That's only half of them. What are you talking? That's not enough.
I need all King of Fighters all the time. I guess in tying into Battle Royale too, going back to that and Fortnite, Justin, did you hear about those arrests in China for the PUBG hackers?
I haven't actually.
Yeah,
You
so
were mentioning it.
yeah, so I guess the thing was like this group of hackers, it was 15 people or so that got arrested, and they made cheat mods for PUBG, but the cheat mods actually allowed access into once you installed it allowed access into those people's PCs to obviously glean whatever data they saw fit. And they were arrested, and they were fined up to $5 million for these hackers. So
Wow.
incredibly stiff penalties for something like this, which I guess sets a good tone, but even at that, are you really going to scare enough people off? I mean, I'm not sure.
Well, I think if they keep up with that and continue to do that to everybody, it would be beneficial.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, they're probably not going to be consistent with it, and this will probably be the only time you see that stiff of punishment, which is kind of dumb.
No, if you're using an aimbot, you better be fined $5 million from here on out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. It would probably it sets a good example, but I just think like the next wave of people who are up to something like that are just only going to be that smarter about it, so that they don't get caught and put in those situations. So
Yeah.
it's only a matter of time. Like, yes, it helps short term, but hackers and crooks always find a way. Sadly, in this day and age.
Well, I assume this one wasn't in regards to them being, PUBG hackers. It was that they were stealing information.
Right. Yes.
That's where the fine is coming from. It's not hacking a game related. It's
right.
They're stealing people's private information. So that should be punished.
Yeah,
hacking a game, it sucks when people do that, but that's more of the game developer, I suppose, that needs to address that, not the law. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, when people are stealing like your tax returns and all your I don't know, I was going to make some porn related joke, but I'll just leave it.
But what about your KDR?
Yeah, I mean that is true. Like, definitely the fine is coming from like the fact that they were remotely getting access to people's machines, but it's just kind of crazy because like there really hasn't been a lot of stuff in that region of the world where the penalty has been this extreme, or really where any action has been taken at all. So it's kind of it's a nice turn to see, I guess.
It's kind of strange too. Like, this is the first real major one that you hear of for like a mod or a hack or something that is actually stealing information from people.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know if I've ever heard of that, coming up. Like, would have been a good way to get, information from people if they would have had World of Warcraft mods stealing information.
Yeah.
You're giving them ideas, Justin. Come on.
Well,
I know. Cut me in, though. Guys, cut me in.
You just want 10%.
Well, speaking of arresting, do you guys like Arrested Development?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I quit watching, I don't know, a handful of seasons in, but
Yeah. I'm pretty excited the new season is coming out here this month, so looks
They're
pretty
doing
good.
more Netflix.
Yeah, it's coming to Netflix, yeah. And apparently they have like everybody committed the whole way, so it should be much better this year.
So it won't be like the disjointed stuff that happened with the last season.
Yeah, and apparently they like re-edited that whole season to make it completely different now.
Really?
Yeah. It's like 24 episodes instead of like 13 now. So I don't know how they pulled that off.
Huh. That's interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one of my favorite shows of all time. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I wonder what Michael Cera, he's probably got nothing else going on right now, huh?
Yeah.
He's like, yes, more Arrested Development. I thought my career was over.
It is kind of funny, like how that show came on, and then everybody was like, "I'm too big a star to deal with this shit anymore." And then a few years later, they're like, "Yeah, we're not doing anything anymore, so I guess we'll go do that again."
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'm glad they're getting more episodes. It seems to be like one of those shows that it's pretty easy to go back to, you know, like it ages well. Like, I mean, that's the thing is like really it reached the height of its popularity like 5 years after it was off the air.
Oh
Which is
yeah,
kinda
for
crazy.
sure. Yeah.
Like the Netflix and like internet availability after it was already discontinued is kind of what made that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of Netflix, have you guys watched Lost in Space at all?
Heard it's good. I have not.
No.
See, I don't know what to think about it. Cause have you ever seen the show like the 100 or whatever?
No.
Nope.
So that was a CW show where like Earth had become uninhabitable due to nuclear fallout, I believe. And then like the space station is essentially dying. So they send like 100 people down, mostly like criminals that were in prison on the spaceship anyway, to test to see if Earth is safe again to live on. And that's kind of what this Lost in Space reboot is. Like Lost in Space, like the series, the television show, and even that shitty movie with Matt LeBlanc. I don't know who's the guy who played Joey from Friends. Is that the wrong one? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But this series like just like strays from that. Like there are multiple ships and multiple survivors, so there's instantly like I don't know 50 to 100 people that are alive. So it's not this individual family having like these weird episodic sci-fi adventures. It's kind of like this space survival drama that reminds me it reminds me so much of the 100 on the CW, but with the Lost in Space logo on it. It doesn't really, it loosely lives up to the name that it's borrowing from, but it is a completely different show. It's a drama. I will say we've watched maybe 6 episodes and I don't mind it. I think it's good. I think it will, if you are a fan of what Lost in Space was, you will not probably appreciate this being called Lost in Space, but it's fine. It's a decent Netflix show.
Sure.
It is just completely different than I was expecting, though.
I hadn't heard of that. Oh, I have to take a look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say it's not worth watching. I just can't say it's fantastic either.
Right.
But given the recent like run of content on Netflix, it's pretty good.
I've been watching Last Chance University or something like that.
Oh yeah, how's that?
It's pretty good. I don't know if you are familiar with what that is, but
It's kind of like a reality show, right? Like these guys like are trying to get in the major leagues or NFL, and
yeah,
you go there.
So all these players were at bigger colleges and got kicked out for various reasons, and they end up going to this like junior college to try to get their grades up and get their name back out there to get back into a D1 school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of an interesting one. The coach is kind of a douche, but
Does anyone make it, or is that spoilers?
like they don't really go on to tell you if they make it. You can search their names,
Right.
and a bunch of them that we could have made it. Either didn't keep their grades up, so they weren't able to be eligible to play, or decided to quit playing because of injuries.
Huh.
So, like a lot of the big names, like you can look it up. It's kind of interesting. If you're not a sports fan, I don't know if you'd like it, but
So not for me then, is what we're saying.
probably not. Like the second season, it feels like it's dragging on. I think I got one episode left, so it sounds like they're making a new one to be up there sometime within the next few months, I suppose.
Is it the same school both seasons?
Yeah, the first two are the same school.
Okay.
And like they had during the first season, I think it is, like they hadn't lost in like 2 or 3 years. So they had this like outrageous record, or about to be a record. And they lost. Spoiler.
Oh.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting, just for that, to see what they go through for the college sports, I suppose.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Okay, on to the failbag, where we answer questions from old gaming magazines as if they were addressed to us, so we can help these poor fools out. Our first question, Brett is wondering if there's a way he can send Miss Elizabeth Maliki, the woman who plays Sonya from Mortal Kombat, a letter. I'd like to send her one. Don't worry, it won't be anything derogatory. Can you help me out?
When you lead off with "Don't worry, it won't be anything derogatory," you've basically just said, "Hey guys, it's gonna be derogatory."
Yeah.
Like no.
It's funny how sexual harassment was different back in the day of like letters.
Yeah. Thank God she didn't have like Twitter and Facebook. This creepy Brett would be all over.
Right. He'd be like, please send nudes, nothing derogatory.
Yeah. Waist up, not derogatory.
Yeah.
I want to know like what content he would have put in this letter. I just wish I could get into Brett's mind and know what he would like. I love you. Let's get married. We can be in Mortal Kombat 2 together. It'd be glorious. So it's official. We're not giving it to Brett because Brett's a perv, right?
No, and neither did the magazine. They're basically like, yeah, why don't you contact Midway? See if they...
Yeah. Yep, it's on a bulletin board in the lobby at Midway offices. So just head on down.
You just wait a few years. You'll get Google.
Yep. Look her up. Now I need to see what she's up to.
Don't worry, there will be plenty of cosplay pictures for what you're after, Brett. It'll be readily available on the internet. You won't need to contact her directly.
Wow, she's only 44.
Well,
and she's
how's she look now?
She's pretty much only done Mortal Kombat. So
shocker.
Yeah.
Well, she probably does the convention circuit now. Goes around, sits up the tables, and maybe we'll see her at the Midwest Gaming Classic next year.
Yeah, maybe. In the personal details, it says under her other works, it says she's a dancer. I don't know how to take that.
Uh-huh.
You might get your
requests. Brett, go for it, man. Just have some ones.
I don't know. She could probably fight pretty good, so I won't go to her. Kind of in that same tone. DC McKay from Chicago says, Having just finished reading your magazine's coverage of Mortal Kombat, I have to say the author of the article deserves a major sucking chest wound. Having spent several days trying to execute the fatality for Sonya in the Genesis version of the game without success, my conclusion is that the author just made up a fatality move. This conclusion also stems from the fact that the article on Reptile states that the only character that can't fight Reptile is Sonya because to execute her fatality, you have to use the block button. This person conveniently forgot that Scorpion also uses the block button. Why does your magazine and your contemporaries portray the female characters in video games as helpless, leggy babes who need saving or man-hating punching bags? That question kind of took a turn at the end there.
I was going to say, that's a little loaded. I don't know that we want to touch this.
Because then you get customers like Brett earlier who will buy the game just based on like how Sony looks. That's the problem.
True. So the whole issue, like the first like 90% of that stemmed to an incorrect fatality code or like combo list, and then it turned into a feminist rant.
Yeah,
I didn't quite get the twist.
Yeah, like
there.
basically like why is female sexualized?
Yeah, I don't. Great question.
That I mean,
I don't want to touch that.
Yeah,
It sells.
yeah.
Oh, you pig, Justin.
Somebody had to say it, right?
But why did they make
hanging over?
Why did they make
Send
up
your
the
hate
fatality?
mail to Justin at weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com.
I just love that he's like also accusing them of just making stuff up. Yeah, forging it. Not as if these were like idiot teenagers who just are getting a paycheck to write this shit.
What was their response? I'm curious.
Oh, you're gonna love this. This was from Video Games, the magazine.
Oh, everyone knows this.
Yeah.
Reputable magazine.
Yeah.
Time-honored magazine.
So, on the accusation of them just making up fatalities, the response was, "Who do you think we are? EGM? We never make up anything."
Wow.
Yeah, that's got some balls. They're starting beefs with other magazines.
Especially EGM. God dang.
Well, you have to punch up, right? If you want to make it anywhere.
That's true. You can't go down from where they're at.
Yeah. What is? If anything, Video Games Magazine is the only magazine that tries to break down feminine stereotypes as well. So. Oh,
whatever. Well, I'm sure they accomplished a lot in the 3 issues that were ever published. Good job, Video Games Magazine.
So right next to this, there's a article talking about how they rotoscoped all the actresses into the game. Obviously, they're all wearing like skimpy swimsuits, basically. It's
nice. And they got photos of it?
Yes, it's Milana.
Jeez.
Milana. I don't know how do you say it. Milana, right? Isn't that how you say that? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, her character is just sitting there.
Wow.
So yeah, I wouldn't say
go. I don't think we helped them at all, but we at least confirmed that Video Games Magazine was complete garbage and is best forgotten.
True.
Is that fair?
Yeah. At the same time, like, I don't think fighting games, you could say that. I mean, yeah, probably women are over sexualized, but men are also have their shirts off all the time too.
Right. Well, at least in a fighting game, like everyone's on par, right? Like nobody's generally overpowered. Like the skill of the player determines how well the character does and is portrayed.
Yeah.
Through that, I don't know.
Does it mash the buttons better?
What's that? Yeah. What'd your brother call that? Like mash foo or whatever?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's plenty of examples of unfunctional outfits that women wear in a lot of video games.
Well, at least we've got hallmarks, like the DOA beach volleyball games.
Oh yeah.
They take women's sexuality very seriously and wouldn't portray them in anything that would be derogatory or demeaning. It gets better, is what I'm saying. In 2018, it's certainly still not a problem.
No, for sure.
So there's that to look forward to. At least they stopped. Didn't they stop releasing the DOA beach volleyball games in North America? Wasn't the last one not here? So there's that, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Plenty of people still imported it, though.
I don't know who wants those games. They're just hot trash.
Are you saying that under your breath?
No, I'm saying that while masturbating, looking at a copy, but...
I think you were talking not so long ago. You did a video about like Ona Chambara bikini something or other.
Hey, don't you dig up the past. I made that video 3 years ago. Damn it, my YouTube career is biting me in the ass. I totally forgot about. Wasn't the whole joke like the only way you could make that better was like, and then I magically made like a beer teleport into my hand too, and I was like 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. It was like the worst joke ever.
Oh man,
that's great. I totally forgot about that. That was a long time ago. I'm sorry that you remember that.
I just thought of it now, like after seeing all that. I'm like, oh yeah.
I think I pronounced it like horribly too, didn't I? Like Wanchan Baro or something. Like I just butchered it. It was not good. My Japanese is not great.
Oh.
I don't own that game, by the way. I totally do.
Pamela from Dayton, Ohio asks, and once you know since this is a female, you know exactly how this question pertains to that. In one of your past issues, you mentioned that my favorite music group, the New Kids on the Block, might be coming to the Nintendo. Have you gotten any new information on this game?
No.
Apparently they were making a New Kids on the Block Nintendo game, NES game. So I'm wondering if there's like a prototype of that out there.
Oh God.
Made by Parker Brothers.
I can't even imagine what that would have been, but not good for sure.
In the beginning of Rock Band, or in the beginning of Guitar Hero, that sing along one.
I had a friend in grade school who was just like absolutely obsessed with New Kids on the Block. Like, and he was a guy too, just loved them.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I think like I can't remember. I got I had two cassettes, and I can't remember which one was the first one and which one was the second one. But one of them was New Kids on the Block, and the other one was MC Hammer, and I'm not sure which one I had first. Might have been New Kids on the Block, so maybe I was just as bad. To be fair, I didn't pick them out. My mom just got me them for some reason.
Sure.
But
is that why your name is Donnie on
Yes. Yep. You've cracked it. That is it. Yep. It's my undying love of Kids on the Block. Yeah, I can't imagine there's a prototype for this out there. And I just can't comprehend what this game would have been at all.
No,
It'll be a platformer.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's really easy, right? Like, just like, hey, we swapped out a game that we bought from Japan and put these sprites in there or something.
Right.
But, yeah, who knows?
It's just a reskin of, like, Mario Brothers 2.
It's called Doki Doki New Kids on the Block.
Doki Doki, don't buy this.
Yeah. Yeah, never came out, so we have no idea.
Oh, sad.
I had to pick this one because it is somebody that grew up in the same town that I went to school. David from Alexandria, Minnesota says, why doesn't Electronic Arts make anything besides sports games? I'm aware of only Haunting and the Jungle Strike game as their only non-sports games. That's a good question even today. Because it makes some money.
That is true. I mean, they did branch into first-person shooters, so there's that, but...
True. But at this point, those are almost sports, right? On themselves.
That's true.
It depends on how you look at it. Esports, I suppose.
Yeah. I guess a way out is EA, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They got a couple other titles too, I suppose, that I can't think of them offhand right now, but there's one that I was kind of surprised with EA.
Huh.
It's kind of telling, though, that none of us can think of anything, like,
Yeah.
to defend EA during that era. Like, no, that's about right. Road Rash, right? Wasn't that EA?
Yeah, that's true.
So that was pretty huge. To be fair, though, back then, like, their sports games were, like, really friggin' good.
Yeah. I mean, like, you can't argue with that, for sure.
Well, and also the whole thing is, like, why do you care that EA doesn't make anything other than sports games when you can just buy games from other companies? Like, are you that dedicated to EA that you're like, I'll only buy EA games, so it's a real problem that they're only putting out sports games?
Right.
Like, if you want to play something that's not a sports game, just buy a game from another company. Just
Right.
saying.
I wasn't playing Madden and then be like, you know, I like these developers. I wonder how they would do an RPG.
Right, yeah. Exactly. It's funny. It's kind of amazing that you found one from Alexandria, Minnesota, especially back then.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they even had the postal service in Minnesota back then.
Yeah. We were trying to figure out if we knew this person even, but nope.
You should put out a Craigslist ad. I'm looking for Don, or what was it? Yeah,
David?
Did you write this article? I want you.
Misconnections.
Yes.
You wrote an article.
Well, they had to gut that from Craigslist, though, didn't they? Because, like,
Yeah.
all the sex trade. Damn internet.
Yeah.
You should just go door to door. Are you David? Are you David? Phone number on the sheet. It'll work out.
Yep. When he finally calls and be like, yeah, I don't know why they don't make more than sports games. I mean,
we have a real opportunity to answer this young man's question.
Right.
We should do everything in our power.
Find him on Twitter. Keep going. Yep.
Yep.
But really, I think they probably made more non-sports games back then than they do now.
Oh,
And
for sure.
it's just that they probably weren't as available. Like Jungle Strike was huge, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of those like games that you never heard of, especially on the Genesis that are all EA games. But
They did General Chaos too, didn't they?
yeah.
So there were some big ones.
Yeah, there's a ton of them that you would just never, you look at and be like, I don't even know what that game is, but
Yeah. Well, and like you said, like the Genesis just was like so buried in sports titles from EA that you missed a lot of other stuff in the store.
yeah.
Didn't EA do Mass Effect series?
Yep.
Which
Yeah.
is kind of a shooter, I suppose.
It did.
Need for Speed, I think, too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that was Need for Speed 3 Pursuit. That was fucking massive.
Because that was EA back then too, right? Still
Yep,
for Hot
it
Pursuit.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were fantastic games. Oh my god, I used to play that all summer.
Hot Pursuit was probably one of my favorite Need for Speeds, or it probably is my favorite one.
I got into him on PS2 a lot. This one doesn't have a name, but he says, I currently get 3 magazines, and I'm very angry at all of you. The Genesis...
Go on.
Do you think he wrote to all 3, and this is the only one that was in? Probably.
Yeah.
The Genesis versus Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat and the issue of censorship went on and on in all of your magazines, yet not one word has been mentioned about SNK censoring the home version of Samurai Showdown. SNK is blatantly ripping off Neo Geo owners. It's made no announcement, nor has it offered any explanation. I respect Nintendo for at least being open about its decision. SNK, on the other hand, has been sneaky and underhanded, as it did nothing, even after all the mags gave Showdown glowing reviews.
Dude, if you want the best version of fucking Neo Geo games, get an AES, you jackass.
Yeah.
There's a reason it doesn't have all the gore and violence, because they had to gut it to fit onto inferior systems. Quit being a whiny little bitch. Get a job. Get your $800, and then get the $300 you need for the cart, and then the $150 you need for the extra controller, and buy the damn thing.
Yeah, you think SNK is ripping you off right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
It's quite the claim.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if he's talking about the AES version here, or...
I assume he's talking
not.
about like the 16-bit ports, like
that would be my guess, yeah.
Super Nintendo, because I know that one went to both Super and Genesis, so I have to assume, and they were both like wildly kind of different. Not so much wildly, but like they varied quite a bit between the Genesis and the Super Nintendo 2. So I really don't think they made choices though to weaken the violence in the game. I think they made choices to accommodate a much bigger game on a lesser hardware. So
Sure.
I don't think SNK was like trying to get around like violence, like rules or anything like that.
Yeah, it's really tough to know, because that was a big deal back then, right? Like,
Right.
I could see a lot of companies just taking the safe way out, don't want to deal with it, but...
But I mean, it was SNK, so it's like they had their own pipeline to make a game kind of in any format they chose, and I'm sure the port that went to the AES was arcade perfect, and these were just quick cash grabs.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. It's... I don't know if your assumption that they're just sneaky and underhanded about it is one thing. This is the pre-internet. You have no idea like what they
Right.
announced or anything like that. So
This is true.
but yeah, I think that's all I got for this week. So Justin, you want to take us out?
Yeah. So you can find everything social media on our website. It's going to be www.weekendpodcast.com. And there'll be links to our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And as mentioned earlier, feel free to send us email comments, anything like that, to our email, which is weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. And you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, like Ryan had said earlier. Do leave us reviews on there. It does help everything to be found easier. And as always, be kind, rewind.
Bananas.
Bananas.
Banana. Zzz.
I mean, there's always money in the banana stand.